Dear Mary, I would love some of your wisdom in relation to my ex. Things fell apart for reasons that are complicated and awful, but we tried to remain friends. I feel I made an effort. I kept messaging. I asked him about his life. I organized a catch-up. I still had lots of feelings to process, but I put them aside because I wanted to maintain a friendship. I backed off a bit while he was on holidays, and when he came back and messaged me, I was in a bad place mentally. It took me a week or so to respond, and I told him the truth, that I wasn't doing well. His response had no empathy. He didn't ask what was going on or if I wanted to catch up. Do I tell him how I'm feeling, or do I accept he can't meet my emotional needs and let the friendship go? Love from Anonymous. Ooh, I chose this question for this month's Dear Mary episode because I think the holiday season in general can bring up a lot of feelings and emotions around past relationships, whether those are familial or friendships or romantic ones. It's a time where we're flooded on social media with people being all like romantic, Sleepless in Seattle, all the rom-coms, all the Christmas holiday season. And I think that can make us tempted to go back to places that we left for a reason. And I may or may not be speaking from experience here. The Christmas before I met my now husband, I actually flew to a different country to get quote unquote closure with my ex, and we visited these magical Christmas markets and ran around the zoo, and it was lights and romance and all of the things that you would expect from either, taking two paths like getting back together because this is so romantic and the feelings and emotions are so high and biochemically your body wants to come back to what's comfortable, what you're used to. And then on the other hand, sometimes people want to get closure thinking that they will, once they get said closure, it'll make it so much easier to move on. Literally yesterday, my best friend texted me that she got this new card deck with questions to ask your friends. One of those where it's like thought-provoking questions for connection. And she's like, I'm going to send you one of these questions a couple times a week so we can just stay connected over text even when life is busy. So she sends me the first question, and the question from this card deck was, if you knew you could get an honest answer from someone, what would you ask? Who would you ask, and what would you ask them? And I texted back very quickly, very impulsively, and I said, I would ask my dad why he ghosted me, LOL. And as soon as I sent that, I was reminded of, it was like this flashback into the conversation that I had with Mina B. A couple of months ago. She was on the podcast, and she's a therapist who I just love the way she approaches delicate topics, but she is very blunt and is going to tell you the truth. And I was reminded by this one thing she said to me, because the whole conversation was about family estrangement. And then through that conversation, I realized that I kind of actually got ghosted by my dad. So we're not estranged as in it was my choice to not talk to him, but it was his doing. He just fell off the face of the earth, and he's done this many times in my life. So this isn't anything new. This is just the longest I've ever gone without speaking to him or without getting any explanation as to why he's not deliberately not speaking to me. It has been, we just passed the 3-year anniversary of that. So it's something that crosses my mind and definitely feels heavy if I think about it too long. So here's what Mina B said to me about closure.
And we say to ourselves, I need closure, but the truth has unfolded already. And there are times where it's okay to recognize that even though the truth is happening right in front of me, I don't think I'm ready to swallow it. I don't think I'm ready to own it. And if these are the extra steps that I have to take to finally own the truth, I'm going to do it. But you also have to realize that By going the extra mile, there's a possibility that you are compromising your own well-being and your own mental health. And you have to ask yourself, at what point does it stop? Because you can chase someone forever and that person can run forever. So at some point, you have to ask yourself, when do I stop the chasing? And I think that is the hardest part of this, but that is also the part that has to be embraced, because the more you chase, the more you deplete yourself of your energy, your time, and your resources. And that is how things backfire when we don't realize the person that we're trying to hold on to is actually running. And that is the truth that I leave here, because I don't think the answer is this is what you're supposed to do. The answer is, what is the truth that you feel like you are waiting to see happen in front of you that hasn't already happened?
It seems like closure is akin to forgiveness in that it happens within ourselves. It doesn't matter whether or not you got an apology or whether or not they told you to your face why they were leaving. It doesn't change the facts, and it doesn't change the hurt and grief. And we try to fill in the gaps thinking that one more piece of information would make it easier, but you said it so eloquently. It doesn't. And when somebody shows you who they are, like, accept them for who they are. And when I read your question, Anonymous, it felt so related to kind of the way I feel with my dad, with the lack of emotional empathy, the lack of answers, the like, why are you doing this? Like, things could be so good. We could be such good friends. Like, if only you took the freaking step forward. And it feels like the only way out of that is to, like, obviously accept that this person can't give you what you want, what you need, what you're asking for or wishing for. But closure is a myth. Closure, in that conversation with Mina, I had this epiphany where I say that closure is akin to forgiveness. It has to happen within yourself. The idea of closure is a myth in that it makes it seem like the other person will give you closure, but you are the only one who can give yourself closure. Whether that's talking to this person and having that one final last say just to kind of like prove to yourself that you're not crazy, and when somebody's showing you who they are, like, believe them. Maybe you need that to happen right in front of your face in a very bold, blatant way for you to finally accept that. But also, are you ready to deal with what Mina said? When you go the extra mile, sometimes you're actually sacrificing your own mental health and your own well-being. So I guess the question here is, are you prepared to hear the truth? Because I think you already know the answer to your question. And I think you already know the truth that this person is not serving you. You know that, right? You know that. But now your question is like, do I need closure from him in order to move on? And my invitation to you is to ask yourself, can I give myself that closure? How can I give myself that closure? Sometimes, yes, that might be, I'm going to confront this individual. I'm going to hear it said to my face, and only then can I move on. But are you like mentally prepared to deal with that? With the answer, the honest answer, the truth? Or are you still going to keep denying it, keep trying? You know, you kind of have to know yourself and take steps from there. Or is that closure going to happen within myself, i.e., I'm going to process and talk it through with a friend. I'm going to journal. I'm going to write him a strongly worded letter and maybe not send it. Like, maybe the letter is for me. And I think in that regard, closure can be really powerful, but closure from someone else is a myth. And the last thing that I want to offer you is, you know, I really believe in emotional space, energetic space. By allowing him to take up emotional, energetic space in your life, you're also closing yourself off from friends, partners, people in your life that can actually fulfill your social emotional needs so much better, so much more lovingly, so much more the way that you deserve. So maybe it is time to get that closure sooner rather than later so that you can move on energetically. Because even if you're like, oh, I'm on the apps, I'm dating, I'm still talking to other friends, it's not like this is the only person in my life, he's still taking up energetic emotional space in your mind. And I'm going to invite you to kick him out of the rent-free apartment space that you've given him inside your head. I hope this is taken and received with the love that it's intended. I think it is so big of you. Like, I already know who you are as a person, the fact that you want to stay friends, the fact that you care about somebody who might have hurt you, the fact that you just want to be there for people and you value like long-lasting relationships. But I'm also here to remind you that you deserve somebody who is going to reciprocate that same energy and care that you put in. I hope this has landed. Feel free to send me another email letting me know or updating me on how you're feeling. Only take advice if it feels useful for you. By the way, I never want to overstep in that way, but I'm kind of like, you asked, so I answered the way that I would if you were a close, trusted friend who I am comfortable speaking candidly with. So again, I hope it's received with the love that I intended to. Keep me in the loop. And if you're a listener who would like your question answered on this little Dear Mary segment of the Mary's Cup of Tea podcast, you can email your question short, like keep it to a paragraph or so, because it just makes it easier for me to read and answer it. You can email that question to pod@maryscupoftea.com, pod@maryscupoftea.com. My team and I will go through them, and I'll choose a few to answer in the months to come on Dear Mary. By the way, this started as like a little trial on the podcast, just me switching things up, experimenting with different formats, and I'm really enjoying this. So thank you so much for trusting me, for listening. I love you, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.